Trade, it's true that China benefits from the world order immensely. They sell a lot of things, especially to Europe, and the trade is not an excuse not to start wars. Before World War One, they forecast the fact that there could not be a war because the world was too much interconnected through trade. So trade, yes, they benefit, but it comes to an end because China is directly challenging the United States world order as an empire. There is like an autocratic block forming, and the Islamic Republic is part of it. And there is a real ideological divide. I mean, the biggest threat to China is like a free Taiwan. As I said, there are natural allies and natural enemies. And then you see that those blocks are cooperating with each other. I posted in, this is just as a proof because last week.
Wait. So they're competing with the United States for more, so to become dominant, but in this order, in the current order, right? So they're trying to become dominant. Like they're not trying to change the game. They're trying in the like. So when it comes to communists, like actual communists, not China, and Islamists, they don't even like this game that we're playing. They're trying to change the game. You know what I mean? They're trying to play a completely different game. They're trying to change the framework, the order. But the difference is China wants this order, but wants to become dominant in this already existing order to defeat the United States and be dominant, but with the already existing game that we're playing. Does that make sense?
China, if it has to subvert the United States, will not have the same order. The way they do colonialism and colonies is totally different than what America does. They just impose dictatorship and take resources. I mean, United States is great because wherever they had colonies and free trade, that's what makes the United States great. China and Russia, they just impose dictators, and if they had to subvert.
How about this? In the meantime, before they like maybe they want to change the game later, but in the meantime, right now they want the order to be at like this
Right
one.
now, like I posted something on school, and this is like a biolab that they were running in Las Vegas. Close to this operation was billions of dollars, experimenting with rats and all sorts of diseases on an Airbnb. So when it comes to direct threats, I mean, it cannot be more obvious than that, running biolabs in United States soil.
I'm not
This is like
defending the CCP. By the way, I'm not defending the CCP. I hope everybody understands.
but also the fentanyl epidemic. China is directly responsible to fuck up America. I mean, the art of war, they win without fighting. That's the whole point. You know, like fighting a war, direct thought war, is a fail. They try to win without fighting a shot. The goal is to let America fall into civil war and then use the proxies like Mexico and other things to basically distract. Yeah, sorry.
Can I add on it?
Yeah.
Like I believe that if that what is going on is like father and son playing chess, and the son starts losing, so father just flips the table, and now the son has the winning positions. But as soon as the son gets the winning position, he's starting to screwing up again, and the father is winning again.
How
So
does that?
that's
How does this apply to what we're saying?
like that's what is can be if China will want to, like if China gets to be in the dominant role, like they will screw it immediately as they get on top of, like, let's say US somehow disappears.
Oh yeah, okay. So I do actually. That's interesting because I do believe that the non-classical liberal model is self-defeating, and this is the good thing about our enemies, right? So the people here who believe in classical liberal values, the good thing is that our enemies, I don't think they have much of a chance to ever become dominant because their models are inferior, and they will always be behind because they believe in micromanaging everything and command economics and basically being so involved in the private sector, and they slow down their own economies for them to ever become powerful enough to be able to dominate against the West. Yes, Samantha, I know
The,
you're doing a thumbs down, but go ahead, Francis.
Yeah, like nobody in the animal kingdom messes with the elephant, right? Except the parasites that leech on it. That's
Yeah.
the entire point. You don't want to fight directly with the United States. What you want to do is to subvert. You're right.
But the good thing about that is that the parasite might be leeching on like the elephant, but but using that model, the parasites will never turn into an elephant, and the elephant is never going to turn into a parasite. It will just always remain the parasite.
Yeah, but in
Yeah,
our
yeah,
reality, we have only
exactly.
one elephant. Like we don't have
Yeah.
a full.
We don't. It's not one elephant. It's like a whole set of values that is spreading. Like it's a global. It's a global because even if America loses its way, I think that because these values work, somebody would compete with America and just use them to dominate. It's about protecting these values. And right now, America is the main supporter of these values. Guys, again, remember that these values that we're supporting here, it's not just, you cannot support these values by just talking. These values require a military might behind them. And the only military might right now behind these values is the American army. And this is why it's very important for American voters to value what made America great. This is why American citizens are very important, and their understanding of what values made their country superior is important for for the entire planet. So it's actually in the best interest of all non-Americans to educate more Americans regarding why their country is a great country. Because if they vote differently, then if they vote in a way that brings Islamists and communists into power, the whole world will suffer because they control an army that the rest of us don't.
Yeah, would like to even strengthen your point because it's not only the parasite cannot become an elephant, it's also the fact that if the other bloc wins, let's say, as an example, the Islamic Republic, China, Russia, they somehow subvert the United States. The first thing that happens is that they will fight because they are not united in any value, but it's just like power, right? So they will start fighting each other if they get the world order they wish for.
And again, going to your point, this is why China is trying to get into our media, get into our social media, and cause division because they understand that it's these values that basically make America great. And because they know that they don't have the military might to defeat America, so like actually you're right because the Chinese are playing a similar game to the Islamists because the Islamists also, so all of America's enemies and all of the enemies of classical liberal values were defeated in the World War II and after in the Cold War. So everybody understands that there is no way to bring down this model and the army that supports it but in a military battlefield. So you just have to change the location of your fight. And the Islamist model right now is to just so the Western model includes tolerance and democracy. So you use the tolerance to get in with mass migration, and then you use democracy to just get into their politics. So before, like Islamists before, when they wanted to, like Islamists, Nazis, communists before, this was a military campaign that you would attack and try to take parts of their geography. But now that the classical liberal model has such strong armies that you can't actually take territories away from them in a battlefield, what you do is you just go to their countries using mass migration. You become a major part of their demographic, you become a voting bloc, and instead of attacking their capital, you basically gain a seat in it because you just vote your people into their capital. So instead of defeating their armies, you will be able to have command over their army. So why should I even destroy an army where I could actually become a politician and have some influence in what it does anyways, right? This is what the Islamist model is. When it comes to the Chinese model, because they don't have a religion where they could actually export their ideology. I mean, there's many Chinese all around the world, but you know, they're not like Islamists that they're not going to
Communism
be
is
loyal to.
religion.
Yeah, but they have the
Yeah,
Confucius Institute.
No, they have the
yeah.
UN. They have
I
zero. Yeah.
No, the Confucius Institute is a problem, but it's not like Islam where the degree, like you don't have that strong of a leash over Chinese people everywhere. Like Chinese people, when they go to America, a lot of them become like, they're not like loyal to the CCP. They want to make money and prosper and become entrepreneurial and just like survive, right? No, Chinese people are united as Chinese, but not as loyalists to the CCP. So you don't have the Ummah concept that the Islamists have. So China instead tries to use technology, tries to use social media, try to use like bots and algorithm. That is actually a more dangerous way that China tries to get in. Like they don't have the people that Islamists have. Like people, like Chinese people are not going to go vote as a voting bloc in favor of the CCP in America. Like they don't have that. So they have to use like social media instead to be able to have influence. The Confucius centers is not as effective as mosques.
I mean, they are effective because they run operation with the police running on the back of, I don't know, a Chinese restaurant or some shop. But
Yeah,
the biggest problem is the UN and those big international institutions. They have zero solutions against China. When COVID happened, the first thing they did is to condemn every nation that stopped the flux of Chinese people. This is not a conspiracy, but once you have the big institutions like the WEF, like the UN, which is centralized, then you control basically the media and the legitimacy, and you start impose international law, which allows for mass migration because the international law is used disproportionately against democracy than it is used against dictatorship. So big international organizations are infiltrated. That's how they operate.
this, I mean, the United Nations has had more declarations against Israel than all the other countries combined,
China
which,
is zero with concentration camps.
right. Oh my god, yeah, okay, that's actually a good point. Which is basically, this shows how they, I mean, at the end of the day, we need a table for people to be able to gather around and speak. This is why United Nations is still somewhat relevant. But this is why we are also finding competing methods of countries negotiating compared to the UN, because the UN is backed by United States. And if you are using America's might to and budget and money to then come and condemn its major ally in the Middle East more than any other country, then you got to go. Like your time is up. Like we need to find another framework other than the UN model to. I mean, like there is no equality here. This is all about might. Like Israel gets to live because it has a powerful army. United States gets to decide the rules, the international rules, because it has the army. So we might want to be acting all virtuous and saying like, oh, international law, human rights. None of this has any meaning unless there's an army backing it, right? Like international law doesn't become a thing because we all hold hands and we just say, say sing kumbaya or something, and all of a sudden it's not like part of nature. It's not like within the written within the fabric of the universe. These are things that need to be enforced, and the people who enforce them are paying for it to be enforced. So it has to be in the benefit of the country's army that is basically paying the bill, right? An American, like as an American taxpayer, you should be pissed off. Like what the hell? Like we are, like nobody is contributing as much as us, and then you go and condemn our main ally. Like I know a lot of Americans don't see it that way, but they should. Um, like we might say like, oh, you should just do it because it's a good thing, but who says that? Like who says this is a good thing? If your country is paying for it, then these international standards and these human rights or international laws, your country should benefit more from this framework being introduced than other countries, because you're enforcing it, you're maintaining it, and others are not. So unless other countries participate in maintaining the global order that we're in, then America should benefit from it more than other people because they're paying for it. And that's not how it's working right now. It made sense for America to basically support this international order after World War II, because even though America was the world superpower, that it still was so reliant on European power, for example, and other countries. Like, but right now, the distance between America's power and other countries have become so wide, and Europeans have spent so much money on welfare and not enough on their security, because they were just leeching off of America's ability to provide security for them, that they just spent all of that money on giving free education and free healthcare and a very big safety net. And they were just basically just riding this wave, letting America do all the work, that America's distance, and also that slowed down their economy. So now, even if they want to increase the percentage of their GDP that they invest in their military, it's still not going to be that much, because let's say, for example, you increase your military spending from 1% of your GDP to 4% of your GDP. Like, whoopie doo, your GDP is like nothing compared to America's GDP. So that's still not going to be that big of a deal, right? So America still needs its allies. Obviously, you always do. Like, we live in the whole world is connected, but not as much as before. Not as much as the gap is bigger. The gap is bigger, and it's getting. I mean, I just saw on the news that France is trying to ban U.S. technology. They're banning Twitter. They're banning Zoom. They want to have their own. So their solution to having not enough powerful tech companies is to ban American tech companies. Like, when has that ever worked? Like, oh yeah, more government involvement. I'm sure that has worked out so far for you guys. I'm sure that's exactly how you're going to be solving this situation of falling behind the rest of the world, falling behind United States and China. I'm sure that's going to work out for you. So I think the gap is going to become bigger and bigger. And given that America is not going to be relying on them for enforcing the world order that we are in, then the UN model is going to become more and more outdated, and we're going to require a new framework with more American dominance, which is more of what America wants. And I think when Trump created that peace board, is that what it's called, peace board, I think that's a competition against the UN. You guys know what I'm talking about, the
Yeah,
peace.
I know, and I don't believe it's a
Board of
competition.
Peace.
Yeah, but I
Look
don't
at
want
the
Turkey on board of peace. Like, no.
look at
I'm not
the
saying that's a good model, I'm just saying it's
participants.
the first attempt.
All right,
Yeah.
because the participants are a joke. Like, you have Viktor Orban, the prime of Hungary. Who the fuck is this? It looks like the elephant from from the Ice Age. Like,
Yeah, I'm not saying this is a
complete
good
bullshit.
attempt to this is a, I'm saying this is not, I'm not suggesting that the board of peace is a good attempt. I'm just saying it's just a demonstration that
Yeah,
America is trying to move away from the UN. And by the way, just to look at the logo, it's very similar. The board of peace logo is very similar to the UN logo, with the difference is that the UN logo has the entire world in it, but the Board of Peace logo is basically focusing on America. Like, the rest of you
yeah,
can't see the
a
rest of the world.
lot of
So this
gold,
is
lot of
the
gold,
logo. To me, the logo shows that this is a competition. I don't know, but yeah, go on.
and lot of gold.
Yes, a lot of gold. Yeah, right. Right, and hopefully less raping. Hopefully less raping than the UN. But I don't know. We'll see. But it's interesting because the United Nations started with its first mission was about Israel and so-called Palestine, and the Board of Peace's first mission was also Gaza. So that's a their genesis, like their start was also the same. But yeah, go on, Danny. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to call time because it's been about 21
Oh yeah.
minutes, and
Okay.
I think that was technically Francesco's turn, and Daniel Dome is actually next.
I don't know. Like, I thought Francesco was talking already, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yes.
wanted to let other people speak. That's why I raise again my hand.
Oh, okay. So I won't. Okay. So yeah, Daniel Dome is next on the list.
Okay, so Armin, a question to you: what's going on with the Iranian reporters who are outside of Iran that work maybe on the BBC, maybe on the Voice of America? Because I understand that they are getting threats from IRGC that they will harm their families in Iran.
The reporters that get threatened the most are from Iran International. Some reporters from other places have been threatened as well, but it's mostly Iran International. And the Islamic Republic hates the Iran International more than any other group. So, for people who don't know, we're talking about Persian speaking news media outside of Iran, right? And we have Iran International, we have Manoto, we have BBC Persian, we have Radio Farda, and we have Voice of America, we have Iran Wire. What else do we have? These are the ones that come to my mind, right? And the one with the highest views by Iranians, both inside and outside of Iran, is Iran International. We also have the Islamic Republic's own propaganda channel, Press TV, and then inside Iran, we have the Islamic Republic's media, which is called Sada Sima, right? Iran International has been the most effective one, even though there are some problems with them. And that's why the Islamic Republic is very, very, like, they actually attacked one of the reporters, was actually injured with knives, right? Like, he has to be hospitalized, right? And two other reporters were there was a plot to kill them. So yeah, this is a serious issue, but I think this is a good opportunity for people to also know the different Persian speaking media out there and the positives and negatives with each one of them. So the one that Iranians hate the most is BBC Persian. They really, really hate BBC. Iranians really hate BBC Persian. So much so that they call it Ayatollah BBC. And they're justified because a lot of people who work at BBC Persian, they're reformers, like they have reformist leaning, which means that they basically support the Islamic Republic, right? So reformers are like the Islamic Republic is hardliners and reformers are pro-Islamic Republic. So the fact that the people who work at the BBC have reformist leaning means that the BBC is technically a propaganda arm for the Islamic Republic. Go on, Daniel. You want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask actually in the chat there, Danny asked also like you and Goldie and Tusi, like, all right, Tusi, I know his father in Iran, but like you and Goldie, like, don't you get threatened?
Well, before I get to that, let me finish the list of the different media, and then we'll
Mhm.
get to that, right? So when it comes to Voice of America, right now the person who's working there is Ali Javan Mahdi, which is basically a Kurdish separatist, extremely anti-Pahlavi, and he he basically has banned the mention of Pahlavi on Voice of America in Persian, which is insanity. Like you cannot even speak against it. You cannot mention as it's like a Voldemort. Like you cannot say and this is American taxpayers pay for Voice of America. This is a government funded news agency, and they have banned the mention of the word Pahlavi because the person who is in charge there is a Kurdish separatist, right? BBC Persian is funded by UK taxpayer money, and one of them is anti-Pahlavi, the other one is pro-Islamic Republic. So that's insane. Manitou is pro-Pahlavi. However, they ran out of funding, and they have turned more into like a podcast channel rather than a news agency because they don't have the resources anymore to continue. They don't have like a government funding them. Iran International is funded by Saudi Arabia. This is why a lot of people, even though they have the biggest audience, a lot of people are, don't trust them because they're funded by Saudi Arabia. However, we use them, and at the end of the day, to get the highest amount of views, you have to report accurately, and you cannot report in a way that Iranian people will get too angry, or else you will lose all your audience. So, because they need to maintain their viewership, they do the best at fact checking, and they also completely cover Pahlavi support. They don't hide it, so they are beneficial. But we also do notice that they have an agenda to introduce other leaders in competition with Pahlavi. They used to support the MEK. They continue to speak positively, like give platform and advertise, Kurdish separatist leaders and Hamid Ismailion. Whenever we see that, we call their BS, and we are very skeptical of them. But we know that because they have done the best in when it comes to having the highest views, we cannot ignore them, and we use them. And Princess of Pahlavi himself has used them as well. So we're just following his model. Manoto, unfortunately, even though they are the best, they were the most pro Pahlavi, they have had a couple of blunders. For example, they came out and blamed the United States and Israel for not helping the Iranian people sooner. And they said, don't take out American flags and Israeli flags with you into the protest, which Iranian people ignored. You can see that the Iranians still bring American and Israeli flags with them. And that recommendation was basically in contradiction to Princess of Pahlavi's call to action. But more recently, a lot of people are angry with Manoto because they just came up with the most insane recommendation for Iranians inside Iran to support the revolution by having black ribbons with them, which will basically makes them identifiable. But the regime, and a lot of people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you insane? This is retarded. But they're not backing down. They're doubling down, which is like, so a lot of people are basically are angry with Manoto right now. So this is basically a summary of the media landscape, the Persian media landscape right now outside of Iran. So what was your other question?
It was about the families, like even if you can tell, like on yourself, on Goldie, on other people, like, are you getting threatened? And I don't know, just
So I think
weakness.
I'm thinking about that right now, and I think it's better not to touch on that. I think for security reasons, it's better not to touch on it. I think, yeah.
Well,
So I'm just gonna think like, yeah, I'm gonna pass on that. Yeah. I hope you guys understand. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Completely understood.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just wanted to add that it's heartwarming to watch the protests in all over the Europe where Iranians go with the Iranian flags, Israeli flags, and like do super cool stuff. Like, God, just watching those is completely
Absolutely.
different from those assholes Palestinians, like and like you do cool stuff.
Oh, thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate that. That's sweet. All right.
Did Adam quickly want to say something about this, or
yeah, quick comment. Yeah, just because there's a more minor example that I do feel I can comment on, which is that my own Facebook went down at the same time as the internet in Iran. I do believe it was some kind of complaint spam. It was right after I put out the article, Listen to Goldie Gamari, my account goes down. But I'm not afraid. And just to the person who was asking, I have a life policy of never let fear control you and don't negotiate with terrorists. So there's no other way to proceed, really.
Okay.
All right. So next on the list, I have Dajjal.
Dajjal. Guys, by the way, more people, if you want to raise your hand, again, the smiley button at the bottom of your screen, if you click on it, you could click on the raise hand icon, and that's how you speak. Okay, Dajjal.
Hey, what's up, guys? I know you said you didn't want to talk about your threats, Armin, but should we be concerned, or is everything okay?
If I don't show up to these meetings, be very concerned. But if I'm here, it's good. But if you one day, like if a few days you come here and you don't see me coming, then call the cops or something.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I was going to say, as far as the international world order goes, what you said about China, yeah, they want to reap the benefits of it, but whenever we do something, we step out of line. They want us to be the good guys and stop doing what we're doing. And you'll notice a lot of people do that especially with Trump. Whenever he does something that they consider to be coloring outside the lines, especially if it's explicitly pro-American, they will condemn it and say, "No, this isn't what America does. We're the good guys. We don't do that." It's something that's been going on a long time. that other countries and people who just frankly don't like America do to hold us back. It's really just a trick that a lot of presidents have fallen for in the past, but Trump seems to be falling less for it now. As far as the United Nations itself goes, Churchill himself warned against its formation. He knew that Stalin was going to use it to manipulate Roosevelt. And Stalin was a big supporter of the United Nations because he knew that given its structure, that he used it to his advantage to exploit it because the way it's set up, every independent republic, so-called independent republic of the USSR, got a vote in the UN, which basically stacked the deck in the Soviet Union's favor and actually allowed them multiple votes, whereas they really should have just gotten one. Churchill saw that coming and he warned against it. And so it was basically a Soviet institution from day one. And of course, it's an institution that has people like Iran, countries like Iran, like the Islamic Republic, rather, on the so-called Human Rights Council. It's a fucking joke. It always has been. It's always held America back. It's time to get rid of it and move on.
Okay. All right, Danny, who's next?
Next, I have Elad.
Elad. Thank you, Dijay.
Hey,
Hi, Elad.
so I wanted to ask about the revisionism and how the Pahlavi and his team, like Nufdi and everyone else, is not really pushing back right now. And I understand that they don't push back because right now they need whatever platform they can, and they can't really say like, "Oh, you took part of this, right? You were all complicit."
Wait, which type
Um,
of revisionism? What revisionism are you talking about?
Everything that happened with the toppling of the Shah and
Oh.
before that with Mossadegh and all that.
So you're saying that why? So let me actually give
No,
context.
no, I'm not asking. No, I haven't finished. So I understand why
No,
they're
but
not pushing back
I
right
know
now.
you haven't finished. I just want to give context to people so they know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Mufti
okay.
is an organization that is basically Princess Pahlavi has created his Princess Pahlavi's team, and Elad is talking about the fact that other people are basically doing historic revisionism regarding what happened in the 1979 Islamic Revolution and Mossadegh's coup d'etat against the Shah. They're basically misinforming people, and Nufti is not pushing back. That's what you're talking about, right? Okay,
Yes.
go on.
So I understand why they don't push back right now, because right now you have to stay focused on the mission and all that. But do you think after it's all over, you know, God willing, as soon as possible, that they will start pushing back? And if so, how will it affect everything else? Because we have like a spider web of lies that happened all over the Middle East, and it all starts with like toppling the Shah and really creating this awful regime.
Right. So I think this is more our responsibility than anything surrounding Princess of Pahlavi. And I think that Princess of Pahlavi has done a really good job in not falling for that trap. So in front of him, for example, they ask like, "Oh, how do you know that this is not going to go like become tyrannical like your father's time, right?" And that's a trap, because if Princess of Pahlavi starts defending his father's record, then he's not going to be talking about what he's going to be doing, and he's going to be wasting those interviews and wasting his time and energy, because he needs to be talking about the future and what he's going to be doing, right? I
Of
think
course.
this is our job. This is our job to defend Muhammad Reza Shah and Reza Shah. And I think Princess of Pahlavi and his team and his organization need to be focusing right now. I mean, so I'll answer your question regarding after as well. They need to be focusing on what the prince is going to be doing and what his organization is going to be doing. When it comes to the after the Islamic Republic, then I'm pretty sure that we like it's not going to be Nufti. I think we're going to our future government is going to have like a cultural ministry. I think our culture minister and our education minister are going to be on it when it comes to building museums and education centers and cultural centers and a curriculum where we teach. So we're going to have that in our school books, right? We're going to have we're going to have the real history be taught in like elementary school. So I think we're going to go way beyond just answering reporters. I think we're going to basically, how Jews spent after World War II, they have Holocaust museums all around the world. So I'm pretty sure like we want to do something like that when it comes to educating our population and the rest of the world regarding our history, especially given the massacre that happened in Iran. We have to be doing something similar when it comes to education and telling the whole world about Iran's true history. So yeah, this is going to be a major project of major branches of our executive, major parts of the executive branch of our government. There needs to be a budget dedicated to this, setting the record straight and educating people about the true history of Iran, not just the 1979 revolution, but all our history and our kings and Cyrus. We don't like the idea that people talk about Alexander the Great, but they don't talk about Cyrus the Great. We want to outshine Alexander the Great. We want to make sure Cyrus the Great is known as the king of all kings all around the world. So we're going to be making movies, we're going to be making cartoon animations and everything. So yeah, that's going to be major projects about this.
Okay,
Yeah, don't call him Cyrus the Great. Call him Cyrus the Greatest.
Cyrus the
call him,
Greatest.
and call him by his real name, not the Greek one.
We need to use words that other people understand, right? So yeah, we call him Kurosh, but if we say Kurosh, like English speaking people
We'd
will not be able to.
understand you. We'd
Yes.
understand
So
you.
in Israel we say Kurosh, in Iran we say Kurosh, in Israel we say Kurosh, but in America we have to say Cyrus.
Right. So what I wanted to understand is how do you think this is going to affect all the countries that were actually complicit in the West and actually the Palestinian lies, because it's all connected.
Would there be anything left of Palestinians after the Islamic Republic is over? Would there even be
That's what I'm asking.
Would there even be a Palestinian movement left? I don't know. I mean, I'm being optimistic, but yeah. There will be some remaining, but you guys, like, I hope Israelis here appreciate what a big blow.
They thought that about the Soviet Union falling, and it didn't.
And they were right. It did. It did. Communism now and communism then is night and day. Communism then was a global superpower. The Soviet Union falling didn't have any impact on communism.
I was talking about like Palestinian cause.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just like the fall of Nazis didn't end Nazism, but it really damaged Nazism. Like Nazism today is like 1% of what it used to be. Like the fall of the Soviet Union, communism today is a joke compared to the influence of communism at the time of Mao and Stalin. So in the same way, yes, sure, the Islamic Republic falling is not going to end all of this completely, but whatever remains is going to be a joke compared to when they had a state sponsor of terror supporting them. It's going to be a joke. I mean, it's not going to completely eradicate them, but it's going to be a major blow.
But do you think the cover-up will be like finally, because it's like the biggest cover-up of the century, everything that happened in Iran, because like so many powers were involved in it, right? And it was about oil, and now they're saying it's only about oil, but it's way more complicated than that. But how do you think it's going to affect this, right?
What do you mean? I don't understand your question. I don't understand your question. Can you explain?
This dynamics that the West has with our region, really. Because the way things happened was very imperial, right? It was the powers at bay that came and really installed a different regime.
You mean the Islamic Republic coming in power was an imperialist project by the West? Is that what you're saying?
It wasn't just the West, of course, but it was Britain and the US was complicit in it, and of course Russia behind the wheels. So
I think
all of these
countries. I think all of these countries were at fault, but I wouldn't call it like an imperialist. I think the part of it that was imperialist was the Soviets earlier, and this is just the ripple effects of what the Soviets were trying to do in Iran, right? So, and the Americans just basically stopped backing the Shah. It's not like they came and installed the mullahs. It's basically they stopped supporting their allies and just let the mullahs basically do what they want. So it's not like they just installed. I mean, I still blame them.
But the French kind of did.
They supported Khomeini, but it wasn't like this was a project of them, right? It wasn't like I don't want to defend. I don't want to sound because I blame them, but a lot of people might this might come as me defending them, so I'm going to stop. But they're at fault. But it's not imperialism. So the part that is imperialism is the Soviets were trying to come and take over major parts of Iran. They described it as an apple that is ready to basically bite into, right? And they were spreading communism in Iran. And I think the Islamic takeover of Iran is just all of the ripple effects from what the Soviets were trying to do in Iran, the remaining ripple effects, right? And a lot of people might blame Mohammad Reza Shah for not resisting the mullahs even harder. But I honestly think that Muhammad Reza Shah and Reza Shah did a miracle to even have anything of Iran left. Like Iran was stuck between superpowers. We had the Nazis, the Americans, the Soviets, and we were just stuck right there in the middle. And the British, we had the British, and we were just stuck right there in the middle. And everybody was just basically using Iran as a highway even before they realized like even before the oil thing, like World War I, World War II, Iran was just like a highway that they just came and did whatever they want in there. And we were just like these were just elephants that we were just under their feet being cried. Our country was taken to the edge of collapse. The fact that Iran is even remain is like anything of Iran is even left is like as a Pahlavi miracle. And I think the damage that the Soviets inflicted upon Iran was so high that even though Pahlavis managed to, with the level of education, modernization, industrial development, and cultural improvement and economic growth that they brought, I mean, at that point, they managed to create a situation that even though eventually what the Soviets did resulted in the Islamic Revolution of 1979, and people didn't see that coming, but now in hindsight, you could see that it was inevitable. But the amount of, but the Iranian people were experienced something under the Pahlavis that made it impossible for the Islamic rule to hold on Iran forever, right? So I consider what the Pahlavis did was they planted a seed, and the seed didn't grow into a tree while they were alive, but now you see the results of it after they're gone. And when people blame the Pahlavis for not crushing the protesters, the rioters in 1979, when they're blaming Muhammad Reza Shah, I think they don't understand that if he came down and brutally crushed that revolution, that tree would have never grown. And that revolution was unavoidable because of what the Soviets left inside Iran. The commies and the unity behind the commies and the Islamists, and the fact that what Muhammad Reza Shah was doing was not yet understood or supported in the degree that it should have been by the population, meant that that would eventually lead into a revolution that if you wanted to stop it, you would have been destroying a longer term project. And even though in the past 47 years we paid a very heavy price with Islamic rule, I think if you look back at this, like zoom out and look at the 500-year result of it, you will see that the 47-year price that we paid was necessary for what eventually came after. Like we Iranians are considered modern people with classical liberal views for democracy and secularism. And if we didn't have the Pahlavis, we could have been closer in attitude to people like in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So, and if Muhammad Reza Shah crushed the revolution, we would have never understood what Pahlavi was trying to do, and we would have never been supporting it to the degree that we are right now. That's why I think that the imperialist project that started all of this was the Russian imperial project. It was such a big bomb that we didn't notice how big of a damage that was, because Muhammad Reza Shah was improving Iran so much, but the ripple effect of it caused the Islamic Revolution. And now we're going to go back to continuing the project that Pahlavi started in Iran.
Do you think if the king had just totally crushed it the way Savak told him to, do you think the Iranian people would have turned against him en masse?
I don't know if that would have happened, but I know they wouldn't be so pro Pahlavi today. You know what I mean? It would. I
Yeah.
think that people are shouting Javid Shah more than they would have during the Shah's time right now, because the Iranian people now are finally as mature and understanding as the Shah was 47 years ago.
Yes.
To be able to get to this level of understanding, they had to experience what not having Pahlavi is like.
But if he had just totally crushed him the way he was advised to do, there's a lot of people who wouldn't have suffered at the hands of the Islamic Republic, and they would have been saved. And if you had to deal with a population that didn't like what he did, who thought he was mean, or, he killed the mullahs, that's horrible. Maybe that's just something you would have had to deal with. And if you had that, maybe over the course of 50 years, I think you could have overcome that. If he had done that, I really do.
I don't
I'm
know.
just saying.
I think that Iranian people, like, think about the past 47 years as the most expensive education that we had to pay for. It was very, very expensive, and I understand. But I think that this is why the Iranian people want freedom and secularism and the rule of law and patriotic views more than many people around the world. And I think what we gained from this, and anti-Islamic views, I value that as well. I think
Yes.
short term the cost was very high, but I think over the long term what we gained from this 47 years might have been even higher than what we lost over the long term.